In this example, we'll be going over dividing two rational expressions. So before I go through the process of dividing, what I'd like to do is make sure everything in my beginning expression here is factored. So I'm going to start with 25 minus x squared. So beginning here, that's a difference of squares, and I'd like to rewrite that as 5 minus x and 5 plus x. In the denominator now, I see 3x squared plus 6x. So I'd like to factor out 3x and rewrite this as x plus 2. So now my first expression there is fully factored. Now I'd like to look at the second part. In the numerator of the second part, I see 7x minus 35. So I'd have a common factor of 7 I could remove here, to have x minus 5 left in the brackets up top, and I'd have a difference of squares in the denominator here, which would be x minus 2 and x plus 2. So now that I have everything fully factored, I'd like to go find non-permissible values. Now remember, because this is division, I need to consider the denominator of this fraction, or rational expression. I need to consider the denominator of this expression, but I also need to consider the numerator of this expression, because in my next step, I'll be multiplying by the reciprocal here. So to find my NPVs, I'm going to be looking at 3x, x plus 2, x minus 2, and x minus 5. So taking 3x and setting that equal to 0, I get my first non-permissible value. Taking x plus 2, setting that equal to 0, I get my second non-permissible value. Taking x minus 2, setting that equal to 0, I get a third non-permissible value. And taking x minus 5, setting that equal to 0, I get a fourth non-permissible value. All of which I'll need to state at the end in order to maintain equality with my original expression here. So now that I have all this factored, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So I need to write out my first expression here again. Remember, the first expression stays like it was, but the second one now, I need to write down the reciprocal. So what was in the numerator goes in the denominator, and what was in the denominator now moves to the numerator. So when I do that, now I'd like to look for common factors in the top and bottom of these expressions that could cancel out to simplify. So I'll notice that I've got a 2x in the bottom here, or an x plus 2 in the bottom here, and an x plus 2 over here. So those would cross out to simplify. Remember that if I've got an expression like 5 minus x and x minus 5, they too can cancel. It's just they don't cancel to give me 1, they cancel to give me a value of negative 1. And looking through, now I've got 5 plus x, nothing on the bottom that would match up with that, and x minus 2, and nothing going to match up with that. So let's write what we have left. I've got the negative 1 now, so I'd like to write that in front. And whether I have 5 plus x or x plus 5, they would be equivalent, so I'm going to write this as x plus 5. And I've got an x minus 2 multiplying that. So there's my numerator. And for my denominator, I see I've got a 7 and a 3x left. 7 times 3 is 21. And the x. And now I want to state my non-permissible values. Starting from the smallest here, I had a negative 2, then I had 0, then I had positive 2, and then I had 5, which you may also write as 0 plus or minus 2, and then 5.